the Gulf was, to use a popular phrase with storm chasers, the Gulf was wide open and had been for several days. The interesting thing to me that day, even early, before I had any clue of what was going to happen and where it was going to happen, was everything was in place and moving, if at all, very slowly. It turned out to be a multi-jurisdictional event. That is, it moved from near Waco. Actually, there was a tornado over toward Corsicana, but the bulk of the severe weather was from just southwest of Waco, down across southern McLennan County, down across Bell County, into Williamson County, and finally into Travis County. Came out of the Photoshop, I don't know, 11:45, 12. There was this tower. It looked like videos that I have seen of atomic bombs going off northwest of Temple, west of I-35. This cloud just went literally straight up in the air. Very, very indicative of what would happen later in the afternoon. So I left my house, went up to Moody and cut through on a farm to market road toward Hewitt, and I came upon the first tornado of the day near the Spring Valley area. There were a couple of surprises. One, it was an intense tornado. Another was that it was moving toward the west, southwest, or southwest, which I don't think anyone anticipated. And that was the trend for the rest of the day. And so I left there, and instead of going back down toward Moody, I went over to I-35 at Hewitt and then down I-35 through Bruceville Eddy. And by the time I got to Bruceville Eddy, I was in quarter-size hail, a few golf balls off to the east, and there was a tornado on the ground going through Moody, which is near the Bell-McLennan County line on Highway 317. I got on Highway 317 going back toward Temple and Belton and headed on south on 317. And before I got to Belton, I was hearing on scanner, I was hearing reports of tornado at Morgan's Point. And so I went down to the north side of Belton and turned toward Belton Lake and went out to where the dam is located on Lake Belton, and had a good view of the tornado at Morgan's Point, which was moving toward the south-southwest. I moved south from Lake Belton with the Morgan's Point tornado still on the ground. I went on down was crossing the Stillhouse Hollow Dam. I got about to where the intake tower is. Right ahead of me and just to the left, just to the east of the southern part of the dam, there was a tornado. And that subsided. The tornado weakened, moved off to the east, and I went on south towards Salado. And as I came up out of that creek bottom and up on a higher elevation, I could see a tornado that was off to the northwest of Prairie Dell. I made several photographs through there, and then I was probably 0.6 of a mile from the tornado. It was relatively narrow. It did some damage in the Prairie Dell area, and I chose to go on down past Prairie Dell and went on toward Gerald, stopped about midway and looked back, and roping out of what was the Prairie Dell tornado, the one that came past Salado, as it roped out, you see the termination of the Prairie Dell tornado, and if you count 7 seconds, you see the spin up of the Gerald tornado, what would become the Gerald tornado. I went on down through Gerald to, I'm going to say half a mile south of downtown Gerald. And when I turned around and looked, I was amazed. That little bitty vortex that I saw develop near Prairie Dell had become a 4-vortex tornado, 4 separate vortices rotating around a central point. You couldn't really see the spin all the way up, but you could see the parent mesocyclone up in the cloud base. And it just got bigger and bigger and bigger. It got to the point that you could not see the smaller vortices. All you could see was the larger cyclone. And from where I was, I could not see the area of Gerald, the subdivision that would ultimately be hit. So I decided it's time to go on south and not be in. There was debris falling where I was. There was big pieces of 2x4, and so I knew something was being destroyed. But I moved on south. I stopped, I don't know, 1.5 miles south of Gerald, and got a picture of the tornado as it turned more toward the west and was weakening. So I tried to get out ahead of it again, and ended up in Cedar Park after I believe it was F3 or F4 tornado had gone through Cedar Park. And the road further to the south was completely blocked by trees and power lines. And so that was the end of that chase. As I went up the highway from, cut across from Cedar Park to I-35, went up the highway, I really had no knowledge of what had happened at Gerald in terms of the devastation of the subdivision that was hit directly. And I'm going up the highway, and I have my scanner on, listening to Austin DPS dispatch, and I hear every time a highway patrol unit checks on, the dispatcher says, "You're assigned to Gerald, go to Gerald. The command post is at such and such location." And that was over and over and over. And so I began to realize something happened to Gerald that I didn't know about. And when I got to Gerald and went through, there were sheriff's deputies, there were highway patrol, law enforcement from all over Central Texas had converged there, as well as firefighters and EMS personnel. And I still didn't know the extent of the damage. It was incredulous to realize that that 27, I believe it was 27 or 28 people had died. And of course, that became obvious in the days following. I think it's really important that this event be recognized, what happened on May 27th of 97, as a wake-up call to all of us. It's just vital that people take tornado watches and tornado warnings seriously, because it can happen, it will happen, and the more dense the population becomes, the greater the threat. And I encourage anyone who sees this, who lives in Central Texas, no matter where you are, we do have tornadoes, and sometimes they're weak, and sometimes they're big and bad.